bolster their confidence in participating, but will also enhance the legitimacy of the outcomes. Let us work together to develop effective campaigns that enlighten and inspire every eligible citizen to exercise their right to vote responsibly. Furthermore, as we move forward, let us remain mindful of the need to uphold the principles of democracy and respect for the rule of law. Healthy competition should never transform into hostility, and disagreement should never escalate into division. Our collective commitment to a peaceful, transparent, and credible electoral process will ensure that the true spirit of democracy flourishes at the grassroots level. During this event, I encourage you all to share your valuable insights, as you already have done, and recommendations openly. Your perspectives, drawn from diverse backgrounds and experiences, will enrich our understanding and guide us in charting the most suitable course for district-level elections in Ghana. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion with us all. Thank you very much.
Be generous with applause. Thank you very much, Raphael Victor Fairkin, Program Manager for the Governance for Inclusive Development Program at GIZ, challenging all of us to explore cooperation and collaboration. I always say that cooperation and collaboration is not a noun, it's a verb, and we must really truly act if we are committed to the ideals we so sometimes eloquently espouse. Once again, we are live on Joy FM, and it is the National Stakeholders Dialogue on creating awareness and interest for the 2023 district level elections, the role of stakeholders. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of various political party reps who are in the house. Let's give them a round of applause. Wave at us. If you're representing the political party groups, there they are. Thank you for coming. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of various CSOs who are doing work in this field. Please wave at us and let's give them a round of applause. There they are, quite a lot of CSOs doing this work. Also to all the persons with disabilities and the women and other minority groups in the house with regards to the district level elections, please wave at us and let's give you a round of applause. There they are as well. We thank you for your presence and for your voice. Next, I'd like to invite for some remarks from the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, Kojo Asante, who is the Director for Programs and Advocacy, CDD Ghana. Immediately after Kojo, we will be welcoming representative from the National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana, NALAG, in the person of Honorable Kokro Amankwa, General Secretary of NALAG, in that order. Please, let's give them a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much, Anima. Let me acknowledge the representative of the Minister for Local Government, Mr. Samuel Seth Pasa, who is the Director for the Local Governance Directorate. Also, the Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Sribu Okweku, is here. Mr. Fairkin, Program Manager for the Governance for Inclusive Development Program. Representatives from the Norwegian Embassy. I see Mr. Papo here. Other development partners gathered here. Dr. Esther Buaje, Chairperson of the Star Ghana Foundation. Representative from NALAG, representative from various assemblies, political parties, members of the CSO Coalition on Local Government Reform, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm greetings from the management and board of CDD Ghana, in particular my Executive Director, Professor H. Kwesi Pempe, who could not be here because of scheduling conflict. With 7 weeks to the announced 3rd October date for the holding of the district level elections, today's national dialogue for us is timely and essential. Its objective is to raise public awareness and interest in the district level elections in Ghana, which historically has suffered voter apathy and low turnout. For the 2023 edition, we have added the challenge to the state of stakeholder preparations towards the election. District assemblies in Ghana were designed to be the highest political decision-making body at the local government level. And Ghana in 1988 initiated the decentralization program aimed to transfer significant powers and responsibility to the local level. In essence, if you think about it, our local government system is older than our constitution. Decision-making at the local level was thus shifted from central government to the local assemblies. And the initiative was expected to promote popular participation in the administration of the various areas of governance, policies such as planning, implementation, monitoring, and the delivery of services through the area zonal councils and the unit committees. It also sought to drive the interest and participation of all citizens to bring governance to the doorsteps of the citizen. For me, to make democracy work for the people. Several reforms have been undertaken to improve the achievement of the aims of the local government system, including the recent passage of the Local Governance Act 2016, Act 936, and the adoption of the National Decentralization Policy Framework and Action Plan, and the National Development Planning Systems and Guidelines to devolve more powers to the districts. Ladies and gentlemen, despite these efforts, in May-June 2021, when CDD Ghana conducted its local governance performance survey with the support of USAID, 73% of respondents expressed dissatisfaction with the performance of the local government system in the 5 preceding years. So generally, assemblies were rated poorly across a whole number of functions. Now, at CDD Ghana, over the years, through our social accountability and local governance programs, we have initiated several interventions to support citizen effective participation, demand for accountability, build the capacity of duty bearers, and create platforms for a productive state-society engagement. Now, some of these initiatives included the District League Table, which for several years produced, in collaboration with UNICEF, the annual league tables that generated all kinds of discussions around the performance of local assemblies, currently being produced by the NDPC and UNICEF. We have also gone further to recently release the Ghana Cities Monitors, and just recently we are hoping to release the District Accountability Index with support from GIZ. And we also have a Mining District Development Index also coming out. Now, these instruments for measuring performance are essential for receiving feedback on the health of our local democracy and governance, and whether it is improving the welfare of the people. CDD will continue to deploy these tools to promote and secure real democracy and inclusive development at the local level. In addition, since 2019, CDD has intensified its advocacy on the election of MMDCs. And towards that end, we undertook a number of activities from 2019 through to 2022 with support from USAID and in collaboration with IDEC and many other CSOs to push for local government reforms. We all know the state of that matter, and I think Mr. Fairking alluded to it. There is overwhelming agreement on the election of MMDCs, and if you look at whether it's Afrobarometer surveys or some of the other surveys we've done, but there's a stalemate on whether it should be organized on partisan basis or not. From our vantage point, Ghana's democracy needs a boost. And credible reforms around election of MMDCs is essential. However, elections without comprehensive local government reforms will just add to the problem rather than solve it. The debate around the election of MMDCs and also whether we should elect the members, all the members of the assembly, bring into sharper focus the impending local government elections. Local elections play a crucial role in promoting citizen participation in the decision making at that level. And local government elections in Ghana, as we know, comprise the district assembly, the unit committees, and are to be held 6 months before or after parliamentary elections. The local government election process is challenged by citizen apathy and the underrepresentation of women, PWCs, and youth. Historically, voter participation in local government elections, as we know, has been very, very low. It is really a travesty, and this is probably the first time I've used this word in all my life. Diabolical. That out of over 6,000 assembly members, only 460 are women. In a society where there are more women than men. And the issue is really troubling, and I think we all have to be ashamed of ourselves, including myself. I think anytime I read the statistics, it doesn't make sense to me. And it's something that we really need to take drastic action about. Now, the country is scheduled to hold district level elections before the next general elections. And I am wondering whether we really want to bring democracy to the doorstep of the people, or we want to just tick a box. As at now, we are not sure if the October date will hold. Dr. Kweku is here, he will confirm. Citizens seem oblivious to whether we are going to have elections or not, except of course for the political parties who are busy holding their own illegal primaries to informally sponsor candidates. I think we should also speak the truth. We are yet to see the platforms mounted for candidates to campaign and sell their messages to the people. We don't even know whether all the Ghanaian citizens who turned 18 after the last voter registration, now estimated to be about 3 million, will be registered to vote with just 7 weeks or so to go to the next election. So the purpose of organizing this dialogue is of course for us to assess, the local government elections in Ghana over the last 2 elections and focus on the major issues that has characterized and shaped the elections, the preparedness of the EC to conduct the elections, as well as the role of the NCC. I hope NCC is well represented here. The role of government in the local government elections, the role of assembly members in development, the challenges associated with the local government elections, the role of women participation, voter turnout. Today's presentation will give us insights into the various challenges regarding voter turnout and the underrepresentation of women and other marginalized groups within the governance system at the local level. Although efforts have been made to address these challenges, more needs to be done to encourage the active engagement of voters and then remove some of the barriers faced by marginalized groups. This national dialogue provides the opportunity for us to reflect on the preparedness of key electoral institutions as the election approaches. And we wish to thank GIZ for supporting this program. And we hope this stakeholder dialogue will help trigger action to address the challenges going into the elections. Thank you very much for joining us, and I wish all of us a fruitful deliberation.
Good morning to you all. Thank you, Shamima, for a wonderful work done. I want to rely on the existing protocol and bring NALAC's greetings from the council. My president of NALAC, Honorable Nana Ajimai Prempe, is so passionate about district level elections and what we should do to ensure that we have a higher voter turnout, increased representation of our women at the assembly, and also having a very competitive district level elections. come 2023 this year. NALAC appreciates the giant step CDD and GIZ have taken to sensitize and create awareness in the upcoming district level elections. This is one big event I have seen in mobilizing support for this year's 2023 district level elections. NALAC is committed to making sure that this elections is held successfully by achieving a higher turnout, increase in women representation, and highly competitive local government elections. The district election is one election that mobilizes a greater human resource through elections, gives electorates opportunities to make choices than any election in Ghana. It promotes inclusivity since it mobilizes women, people with disability, and other minorities more than any of these elections we have experienced. Through district level elections, this 2023, electorates will be electing closer to 6,272. And I'm saying closer to this number because I know Nkranza North and Nkranza South may not participate in this election. And also, a near 31,360 unit committee members. And so we should not joke with this election that brings about higher popular participation and inclusivity in these elections. This year, 2019, district level elections, out of 6,272, only 245 women were elected. And 579 were appointed. And I am happy that the government, through interventions, increased the appointment. Because the people that we elected as Ghanaians, the women that we elected as Ghanaians, were only 245. And we are always talking about the need to include women. If government had not increased these numbers with the government appointee 30%, we wouldn't have gotten the 837 that we have in our metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. And so the appointment from the government even constitute more than 100% of what we directly elected our people. And I think as people, it is shameful for us to still talking about how we have treated our women. We know the barriers. NALAC commissioned a research nationwide to find out the barriers, although we know some of them, but then we wanted to affirm them. And we know that the playing field is not equal because of social and cultural issues, institutional barriers, the fact that our constitution have not accepted affirmative action to support our women to be at par. All these challenges are there, and in fact women themselves, their own challenges too, contribute to some of these things. We have not. And so today NALAC is emotional about this because we need quality human resource at the assembly, because they are going to be the legislators, and the Act 936 provides that the assembly are going to have deliberative, legislative, and executive functions. And so who is going to deliberate and who is going to legislate? It is these assembly members. And so if we have a turnout of 33.6 in 2019, and we have 59.3 in 1988-89, then you ask yourself, are we making progress as a nation? And should we be proud in counting ourselves as a democratic nation where 33.6% elect people for us? And is it representative enough? These are the issues that is actually bothering all of us. And I am very grateful to GIZ and CDD for putting this together to kickstart the national awareness and sensitization. Other organizations like Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development have started doing their own thing in quiet. I think it will explode. NALAC is also doing that. NALAC is working with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to implement a project dubbed Partnership for Municipal Innovation, Women in Local Leadership. We started some 2 years ago, and this year we are also supporting this project. And we have identified a number of women who have interest, and we are in the process of training some of them. We have done sensitization. We've met political parties in every region in Ghana, because although the district level elections is non-partisan, we should not behave like ostrich who hides its head in the sand and thinks that the whole body is being covered. As I'm talking to you, some political parties have finished with their primaries. Others is in progress. And in 2019, we trained some women to contest. They call us, some of them even crying, telling us that their party have restrained them to contest. Why? Because there were two. And the party thought that if the two should go, the other political party candidate will win. And when it came to the choice who should stay, it obviously will be a woman. And this is the situation we are finding ourselves. So this program is so very important. And please, we don't want this to be a talk shop. It should ignite our emotions. It should ignite our everything. Morally, we have responsibility to support women, because the issues at the assembly are mostly women issues. The service delivery that we expect from our assemblies are women issues. We are talking about sanitation. Who is more concerned about sanitation than a woman? We are talking about water. Who is more concerned about water than our women? We are talking about basic education. Go to PTA meetings and see the attendance and see the number of women who attend PTA meetings as compared to that of men. And you realize that basic education concerns more women more than that of man. And go to hospitals and see what happens there. So please, the services we render as an assembly concerns more women. And where are the women? They are not found on the table. Women are becoming an endangered species at our local level, and that is unacceptable. And so we want to thank you sincerely for this project, for this thing. Please let us ignite the fire and let us pursue it. We still have some time. Let us increase it. In 2006, Ghana was able to increase elected women into our assemblies by 10% of the total. Where is the 10% now? It is now 3.8. And are we not ashamed of ourselves as Ghanaians and as people? So please, if we want to progress democratically, because Ghana has two spheres of government, central government and local government. And that is what our constitution have guaranteed. And we are pursuing the national with the central one at the neglect of the local one. And that is unacceptable. Because today, let us listen to our media space. Let us look into websites of even institutions that are responsible for these elections. And all the conversation is on 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. So as a nation, if we are not interested about local government, let us be frank and take it off. Other than that, we'll be making mockery of ourselves, and I think our democracy will be in deficit. Thank you.
Let's give him another round of applause. Yapong, Yapong, we have closed. Very well, thank you. Look, I just wanted to clarify the statistics so that we get the statistics right, because I think that we're all quoting different sources. So as at the last district level elections, of 6,000 elected positions, you indicate that 245 were directly elected, that's as women, and 589 were appointed, giving us a total of 837 out of 6,000. Yes? Sorry? 579. Okay. 579. So those are the statistics we are currently dealing with. They are stark, aren't they? Thank you for your...
We have the membership of every assembly member in Ghana, district by district, elected and appointed with electoral areas.
Thank you very much. So for my media friends, that is the statistics as we have it with regards to the representation of women. Do we also have disaggregated data on the numbers of persons with disability? Mr. Honorable Amankwa, do we have some data on persons with disability? Okay, so I think that is a key research area. We need to also know the numbers with regards to persons with disability and perhaps even other marginalized or underrepresented groups. You heard first Dr. Kojo Asante, Director of CDD Programs and Advocacy, who came before Honorable Kokro Amankwa, General Secretary of NALAG, and the message is the same. We have a moral responsibility to support underrepresented groups, especially in the upcoming district level elections, and we must also know that elections without comprehensive local governance reforms will rather deepen the problem rather than solve it. So these are the key issues we will be discussing when we come to the panel, and also to you, our participants. If you have just joined, we are coming to you live from the Mervyn Peak Ambassador Hotel right here in Accra, and we are live on Joy FM. We're also live on CDD Facebook page as well as YouTube page. You can join us as a national stakeholders dialogue on creating awareness and interest for the 2023 district level elections. Now to the meat and the gravamen of today. I would like to invite Professor Emmanuel Deborah, who would be giving us a presentation on the assessment of the local government election in Ghana in the last two elections. Just so for those who don't know who Professor is, let me just give a very brief introduction to him. He is a distinguished political scientist with an unwavering commitment to advancing democratic governance and political understanding. He has a wealth of experience spanning decades. His expertise encompasses a wide range of critical areas within political science. His research focus is extensive and reflects his dedication to enhancing democratic processes and governance. His current inquiries delve into political parties and democratic development in Africa, chieftaincy and governance in Ghana, elections and electoral politics, and decentralization and local government. So let's give him a round of applause as he makes his presentation.
Thank you for the introduction, and couple of minutes. Wait. So I think the big question everybody is asking recently is inclusive democracy. How can we have inclusive democracy without the participation of the people at the local level? Having local government election is one way of bringing all citizens to actively participate in the democratic process. So the big conversation around the table this morning, running to the afternoon, is something that is very important for us to consider if we want to build inclusive democracy, and that is the district level elections. I think the earlier speakers have given you some teasers, but I'm going to provide a framework for us to have that conversation completed this morning. I will give you outline that would provide the basis for our conversation. So I'll give an overview of the local government elections, and I would establish the roles that the actors play in the whole process. And I would also look at the preparedness of the Electoral Commission for the 2023 local government elections. I would ponder upon some of the challenges and examine the role that the assemblyman woman plays. Today, if you don't add the woman, I'm very careful. So I've added some men and women play in the whole process of local development. And we will look at some of the way forward to providing the basis. At least what are we doing here is legitimate. Why is it legitimate? Because the conversation about local government election is rooted in law. Our reference point is the Constitution. If you look at chapter 20 of the Constitution, provides decentralized local governance. There, you have the basis for holding local government elections. And we have legislative acts, enactments. Local Government Act 462, amended 936, 940. All of them provide basis for the local government elections. The law says that every 4 years we must have local government elections. That is the bottom line. 4 years we must have local government elections. And the election must be held 6 months between the holding of the previous local government election and the next election of members of parliament. At least since we reconstructed democracy in 1992, we have had continuous local government elections. One, 1994, 98, and I'm glad I participated actively in the 98, 2002, 6, 10, and so forth. But I've highlighted 2015 and 2019 for emphasis. So let's look at the 2015 in focus. The election was postponed twice. It was earlier to be held in 2014, but it was moved to March 2015. And it didn't happen in March. It was finally held in September 1, 2015. What was the big issue about the postponement? One, a democratic-minded fisherman put the Electoral Commission on its toes. And I like that fisherman. I've interviewed him and I appreciated what he did. He taught the Electoral Commission the real processes of holding local government elections. The Electoral Commission had disqualified him on grounds that he did not satisfy certain basic rules, but he challenged that he had fulfilled all the rules and that he qualified for his nomination to be accepted. The Electoral Commission refused. The democratic-minded fishermen went to court and placed injunction, and the High Court upheld that injunction. The Electoral Commission did not agree, went to appeal, went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court upheld the fisherman's injunction. Why? What was the basis of that injunction? Electoral Commission, you have submitted your CI, constitutional instrument, that forms the framework within which you hold all elections. And when you submit to Parliament, you must stay there for 3 weeks before it matures. You did. And it had not matured. You had started the process. And you didn't know the fisherman knew it and went to challenge that your disqualification was unlawful. At the time you disqualified me, you didn't have any framework in place to hold the election. And the Supreme Court said, fisherman, you are right. Electoral Commission, go back and do the right thing. It took the Electoral Commission almost 1 year to fix the loophole the fisherman saw. And that's why we held it September 2015 instead of 2014. So the verdict led to the replacement of the CI they are submitted to Parliament, and the election was halted, and it was almost 4 days. You see, that was the seriousness. See, 4 days. And then we put everything in disarray. The Electoral Commission had to submit a new CI, and it took a long while to get it ready for the next election, which was held in the September 1, 2015. Then, even within the period that it was ready to hold it, the Electoral Commission had another difficulty. It had indicated to the citizens, general public, that nomination for the next election, in terms the same, the one that was postponed, was going to be taken in July, between July 2 and 3, 2015. But Electoral Commission had to move it to July 6 and 7. Why? Because there was a parliamentary by-election. Why should Electoral Commission lift parliamentary by-election over and above district level election? What was wrong with a district level election nomination coinciding with parliamentary? When it was even a by-election, it was held in a small territory, electoral territory, and a whole national local government election, you put it on hold for a by-election. It tells you that Electoral Commission doesn't take local government election serious. If it does, it will not do that. Let's look at 2019, the election. The Electoral Commission had put mechanisms in place to hold the election, and it's going to be at the same time with a referendum to determine whether the MMC should be elected. The date was fixed for I think the first one was shifted from November 26 to December 17. And the second one was to be held in December 9, 2019 for the referendum and the local government election. But, December 17, 2019, but the referendum was cancelled the last minute because of lack of consultation. And because the referendum was cancelled, then the election too must be postponed because they were going to be held the same time. This time, we can fault Electoral Commission along with the president, because the president was the one who was causing the referendum to occur. But the referendum preparation was to be organized by Electoral Commission. They should have agreed on appropriateness of holding the referendum, because the ruling was that there was lack of consensus on the determination of whether MMC should be elected or not. And these things also led to the annulment of the earlier one until December 9, 1996. Let's look at some of the roles that the actors play in the whole process. The government has an important role to play in the local government elections. We are talking about an election that is non-partisan, but the government is part of the process. Why? Because the government, Parliament, scrutinizes every CI, the constitutional instrument, before the election could be conducted. Because the CI forms the framework within which the election is conducted. Without the CI, we cannot have it. So the role of the government through Parliament is to approve the CI. Then the government has a responsibility to provide resources, adequate resources to support the running of the election. And Parliament must give approval to the budget that the Commission submits to the government for approval. You can talk of others that the government could do, but these are the principal ones that the government is expected to do. Give approval to the CI and approval to the budget the Electoral Commission submits. The aspirants, prospective candidates, also have a role to play in the election which they are submitting themselves to represent their community. You, as an aspirant, your responsibility is to go to the office of the Electoral Commission at the district and pick a nomination form from the district returning officer. He is the accredited person by the Electoral Commission to process all the documentation for aspirants. The aspirant must have your responsibility to fill out all the details of the form and submit to the district returning officer within the stipulated time. If it is 5 p.m., you come 5:00, you are out. Then you cannot challenge because it is time bound. You must wait for declaration of your qualification. If you fill the form, doesn't mean that you can start becoming a candidate. You must wait for the Electoral Commission to indicate to you that your application has been accepted and that notice of nomination has been issued and your name is on it. That is the publication of the candidate's name, determining, indicating those who have qualified to contest the election. If your name is not there, you are disqualified. It means that you can't campaign. Before then, you campaign. And the campaign is at a lower level. You can administer your posters to your small community, the electoral area to which you are contesting the election. And it is to ensure real reduction of cost. Because, you know, assemblyman is not remunerated, it is not paid, and if you're going to spend huge sums of money to campaign, then you'll be disappointed when you go to the assembly where you are not paid. So you are confined to a small geographical location called electoral area. That is where you are, that's your constituency. So you can advertise yourself for the election within that small area. And you must know the basis of the law that it is non-partisan. So you dare not advertise any party symbols and so forth around you. But we know that the candidates are wiser than all the actors. You know why? You are saying that I cannot contest on any party's ticket. Fine. And if you go to the electoral commission, the basic thing about party ticket is the symbol, isn't it? Of Suno or what? Ambra or Kube or something. I'm not going to use that. But at least I have a dress. And the dress has colors. And if I'm taking my photograph in my colors, you can't disqualify me. Because you can't tell me that I should have some colors. So if I'm NDC or NDC colors are here, I take my photograph. Stay there advertising to my NDC supporters. When you go, remember your brother in the colors. Vote for him. MPP the same. They do all that. And yet the law cannot arrest them because they are not using the symbols of the parties. So they go scot-free. The electorate, big responsibility on us. You must first actively participate in the process. How do we ensure inclusive democracy if the electorate at the local level are not interested in local government elections? Then we will fail democracy and we would have failed ourselves. So we need to be very much active in the process. First, every citizen must register to cast the ballot. The first thing to demonstrate your seriousness, your participation, activeness in the process is to register. Because if you don't register, you cannot go and do anything. And you must support the aspirant. Candidates must be supported because you come to you for nomination. You must support his nomination before he can file with the electoral commission. And if he comes, you are not interested, how would you have gotten him to the top position? It doesn't end there. You must also campaign for your preferred candidate. Could also be competition. 3 people are competing for 1 assembly seat. So campaign for your candidate that you want to go to assembly. And you can administer door-to-door posters showing support for your candidate. We, the citizens at the local level, must demand accountability from our candidates. And we can do so when we appear on the platform mountain. Is the common grounds for campaigning, non-partisan ground platform offered the candidates. The Electoral Commission provides the platform for all candidates to be introduced to the electorate, the small geographical area called electoral area, where they can engage them. If you don't grill your aspirants or candidates, how would you elect the most efficient and qualified person to represent you? So you must show activeness by going to the platform mountain area to ask questions for your candidate to respond. It's the same as we do the national level. Our activeness will make us elect the most competent person. Then on election day, as citizens, we need to go and vote. Oftentimes you talk about low voter turnout. It's not the assemblyman who is not going to vote. You have decided not to go and vote for the assemblyman. So dare not say that he has not provided water and electricity for you. If you didn't vote for him, how do you expect him to deliver? So we must show support by going and voting for him to increase his legitimacy on the assembly. We citizens, we must pay our tax. See? This one is very important for me. You must cooperate with taxpayers. You are not only going to exercise your vote. If you exercise your vote and you have not paid your tax, it means that you are not a good citizen. How do you expect the assemblyman to go and deliver social services to you when you have not paid your tax? Your responsibility, obey the laws of the district assembly. By doing this, you are giving legitimacy to the person you are elected to go. The EC, the main institution, first, the EC must have a real timetable. If you are examiner and you are going to examine students and you say we are going to have election, examination or test next year, then next year we are going to have examination. What is the timetable to guide the students to prepare? Timetable sets the whole process in motion. The Electoral Commission is to engage in the planning, and the planning must reveal the timetable of the election. And this must be communicated to all citizens, candidates, actors, all the actors, the stakeholders, right several years before the election is held. It's not 3 days, a year to, or months to, that you declare the timetable for us. How do we prepare to go for election when the timetable is concealed from citizens' view? The Electoral Commission also is responsible for procuring all the election materials, the logistics that are needed, including submitting a draft constitutional instrument early enough for Parliament to approve. The Electoral Commission must revise the voters' register. It is important for the voter register to be revised before every election because it gives opportunity for those who are not registered previously to have their name captured. Those who have turned 18 during the period to register. That's why they revise to capture all. The next is for Electoral Commission to give publicity to the election. If you come to University of Ghana, students who are contesting SRC, come and see. They don't have money, but it's all over. And I admire them. And it's more conspicuous when it comes to my Vanda city. Everywhere, posters advertising candidates. Electoral Commission must do so. More than that, send notices to announce to citizens and to the stakeholders about the impending district level elections. Electoral Commission is expected to educate all the citizens, including the candidates who are going to contest. You see, Electoral Commission must educate the prospective candidates long before even they file, so that they will not make mistakes. You don't leave them to go and file and so forth, and they make mistakes and you disqualify them. You must educate them so that anybody who goes to file would know already in advance what he's doing. And that is the responsibility of the Electoral Commission. It recruits and trains all the staff competently to handle the process. The Electoral Commission is responsible for providing the platform, the common platform, for all the assembly candidates in the election to engage the electorate and to provide security during the election. How is EC prepared for this 2023 elections? The question is EC prepared? Examination is an examination question, but let's solve it. I'm not going to provide answers. So far, the EC has scored 2 points over 100. 2, because it's in percentage point, or 20%. So because 2 activities have been done. First, EC has announced that the election would be held on October 3, 2023. And we are November, August. Today is August 9th, Wednesday, 9th, 2023. The mathematics students, please make calculations. How many months do we have to 3rd October? The second point EC has scored is in respect of the drafting and submission of the constitutional instrument to Parliament. I don't have the name because it hasn't come out. So I can't say this is it. Once it's passed, then you know the name of the instrument. Because Parliament has to give you the name based on the number of instruments it has passed within the period. And this was submitted last year at least. So it's a credit. They have done it ahead of the announcement that it's going to be held this year. Now, let's look at the CI. I think is the reason we are discussing some of the issues here. The CI, this time, Electoral Commission is saying that the only means you can use to identify yourself when you are going to register, when you open register, whether the district level office or something, is that you need the national identification card as the only means to identify you as a Ghanaian to go and vote. And the reason the EC is giving this is that one is abolishing the guarantor system. In the past process, if you came to a police station, there's a registration center, and you didn't have any means of identification, somebody from the community could say that, oh, your mother is this, your father is that, you live in this house, I know you, so then you are permitted to register. That's the guarantor. Somebody guarantees your citizenship for you. EC is saying that abolition is this time. And one, because it elicits fraud in the process. People have become contractors. Guarantor contractors. They take money from people, and from morning to afternoon they are there waiting to guarantee for some people. So give me 10 cedis, I'll do for you. And then he comes there. Throughout the registration period, every time he's there guaranteeing for people. And also guaranteeing for foreigners to come and register. So for these reasons, EC is trying to avoid fraud in the process. But let's look at this. The NIA, National Identification Authority card, is also based on the guarantor system. And the only difference, according to EC, is that there was, if you came and said you were Ghanaian and somebody guaranteed for you, the person signed a sworn affidavit by Commissioner of Oath. That's the only difference. But I haven't seen in the EC submission, maybe memorandum of the memo accompanying the CI, that our intention to abolish the guarantor system is that those who were doing that had not done sworn affidavits. If you do that, then people understand the reason why you are saying that you don't need that. And unless you do that, it's very difficult for you to continue to say that we're going to use this one. Because I have the ID card. People who didn't have, I had a passport, so I use it. If you don't have a passport, then you have to use the guarantor. They also did that process. So where is the basis for that? Give me a couple of time, please. A couple of challenges. Because you didn't start on time, so give me more time. The Electoral Commission, we are attacking the Electoral Commission, but it is also talking about defending itself because it has some difficulties. And some of the difficulties are also self-created. So let's look at some of them. It says it doesn't have enough resources to prosecute the electoral process. If it doesn't have money, procurement of logistics and so forth will be difficult. And the money must be ready long time enough for the electoral commission to do the preparation. And sometimes the election money is released late for the electoral commission to do some of the things that you are expecting the commission to do. But the electoral commission cannot come out and say that I was expecting the money to come last year, but it came this year. So they are always quiet on that. But the truth is that they don't get all that. And so they rush through the implementation of the timetable, particularly for this election. Local government, every time they have been rushing through the execution of the process because some of these issues are there. So they have, if you compare this with the national election, government is ready to give the money 2 years ahead. So they're able to procure, vehicles and so forth, logistics to prepare. I've been going around the districts, but having seen some of the vehicles being repaired, even for this election. All of them that are broken down. It tells you how serious we are attached to, the seriousness we are attached to district level elections. How do you prepare for the election? Logistics. Most of the temporary recruited staff, they are not well remunerated. They come and they make noise and so forth, and they are not committed to helping this. And those people, they are not people of integrity. And the burden goes all on that. If you go to help the electoral commission to administer the process and we don't do it honestly, then we blame the commission. There are errors in the process. 14, then write 41. 16, write 61. How do you go and blame the electoral commission when they are training you and they expect you to do that? You are a teacher, you are this. And such people must be prosecuted more than anybody else. Now the candidates too, they fail to comply with the rules. When they are also fired, disqualified, they are making noise that they have been. So they must fill the form well. They must not become partisan in any of the processes that they do. And some of them also withdraw their candidature late. When the electoral commission has already printed the notice of the poll, when their photographs are there, they are now withdrawing because the parties have gone to see them. Oh, 2 of our members are competing at the same time. It will be defeated. So please withdraw. It withdraws at the last minute. They say that is non-partisan. Deficiency in the platform mounting process. It's not enough. People are not able to, because it's held in certain, if you look at some rural communities, about 4 or 5 villages constitute one electoral area. And you don't give enough time and adequate time for people to engage the electorate. That's why they are not also coming to vote, because they don't understand most of the terms. Yes. So you hold it piecemeal and disorganized, not effective. They will say that we don't have the money to do that, and so it doesn't allow the electoral commission to showcase the people to the electorate for them to understand what is going on properly. We are going to finish pretty soon. So that party is there, all of us are part of it. And also citizens lack appreciation of the benefit of the decentralized local government system. That's all. Because if you understand it, you will not wait for anybody to participate for you to choose your local leaders to help you get the goods and services at the local level. Assembly members, you are going to contest election that's non-partisan, that's not remunerated. We are making promises. They are ditching their own. I'll go and construct this. I'll go and do this. I'll go and do that. When they vote for you, you are not able to do that. So people are now dissatisfied. How do you continue? Why do you should we continue to vote for assembly member who is not able to even face the grass for us? Meanwhile, when we are campaigning, you said you do more than even that. And no one is holding assembly members accountable. Assembly members are not holding themselves accountable for the positions. No, he is a local teacher who is respecting the community. Who am I to go and ask the local teacher questions, even on campaign platforms? When I take my child to school, he will not be. So everybody is quiet. It's part of the reason why the assembly election, the district assembly system, is not working well, because people are not able to. Assembly person is not holding himself accountable. People are not able to hold them accountable. And as for the EC, we have given a lot to the EC. What is the role of the assemblyman and woman we are getting finished in the local development process? The reason why we are talking about this level election is not just to elect them, but to let them to do something for us. It's because we want them to become the agent of local development at the local level. We can't travel from our local communities to the district capital or to Accra or Kumasi to get some services. We are going to vote for our leader who will lead us to bring the public goods to us. I'm sorry. So the assemblyman is important. Why? He is the key person who engages in the planning, development plan of the district assembly. The district planning is prepared by the district assembly, and the assembly members are the focal people who are responsible. The technical men are there, but they, assembly members, are responsible for the preparation of all the development plans of the district assembly. If the technocrats prepare, they must approve, scrutinize and approve everything. And the budget, very important, the sources of income and the expenditure, everything is done by the district assembly members. Assembly members are the principal policy makers. They formulate all the policies and see to the implementation of every policy in the district. Assembly members are strategists, so they are very strategist because they engage strategically in the mobilization of resources. They can say that this site is very important. We might develop it and attract resources to the community. Strategic. Assembly members are very important in the development process because they promote peace, law and order, security, human security, and so forth. If people are angry, assemblyman is in trouble. They must provide. So apart from fiscal protection, human security, and they are the quality control within the district. They ensure that the right things are done. These are the rare issues. It doesn't matter whether they are not doing it, but these are the right things we expect them to do. Last point, way forward. Well, we are talking about low turnout and so forth. Well, let's listen to some of these things. It will help us. First, who knows an achievement of his or assembly member in his constituency? So why should I go and vote in the next district level election? Let's profile the achievement, isn't it? And document them in the district libraries. Don't we have libraries in the district? If you go, oh, we have a lot. Showcase, as document, and then achievement of the district assembly members, the previous and so forth. It will even serve as a reference point for research. NCC, profile the achievement. GNA, I think we have these institutions at the local level. Let them profile all the achievements of the assembly members, and the district assembly become. Then, collaborative approach should be the way out to make the district assembly election very inspiring. Election Commission is providing the platform for the election of assembly members to local government, isn't the ministry? I think you saw NALAC there here. And you are not interested in the elections, the Election Commission is providing for your members. You are not showing interest. If you go to the district, you will see the district assembly moving to provide support to the Election Commission to make the election, successful. They lag and wait for the Election Commission. It's not Election Commission. There should be collaboration. All efforts might be joined to ensure that this system works well. Civil society, all of you are here. At the local level, I want to see you there mobilizing support for not only This is a national dialogue, fine, but let it cascade to the local level. So mobilize them, help them, and stimulate their interest in the process. Even those who are going to file and those who are filed, anytime must also profile the candidates. Not electoral commission notice or poll. Let us also, through the media outlets, the communities, let us provide opportunity for them also to interact with the electorate. Early timetable and citizens' knowledge of the election ahead of time will be pretty much useful. And let us institutionalize the continuous voter register. It's very important. It cuts down cost. It allows electoral commission to do it. I think the electoral commission must move towards recruiting more permanent staff, because it will reduce the burden, financial burden. Some of the activities could be done by the staff rather than employing temporary staff and opening several polling stations, so registration centers, and asking people to go there and register and so forth. You can put within the district 7 polling stations around, put your permanent staff there. People can go and register when they turn 18 and so forth. That one will reduce the cost. And let us leverage technology. Why should we continue to allow assembly members to come to the electoral commission district office and collect form when we are talking about technology? Let them go online, fill the form, send it quickly, isn't it? Provide all the people who can help them. You don't have to be a literate person to do that. When they are sending memos and so forth, do they need help? They do that. Let us begin to make technology become part of the local government elections, where everywhere citizens can file, and then it reduces all the burden and so forth. And at all times, electoral commission is waiting for the maturation of this one. If they withdraw it from parliament, isn't it? They have an old one that they can lean on to drive the 2023 local government election. So if parliament is not passing it, leave them. The sad thing is that parliament is a partisan institution, isn't it? And we are sending a non-partisan CI to a partisan institution to affirm. How are you going to get it passed? Wouldn't be there a process for electoral commission when it comes to local government election, isn't it? To bypass parliament in terms of the CI, so that we would avoid the partisanship approach to the electoral process in terms of local government election. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Please, let's give Prof another round of applause. I think that we have all earned ourselves a PhD in local government affairs. Those in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Thank you so very much, Prof, for that very comprehensive elucidation of the local government system and the district level elections that we are. In fact, I listed not less than 11 key roles of the Electoral Commission, and I think when we come to the panel conversation, Dr. Sribo is here and the other representatives would address some of the issues that have come up. But for now, we'll be going off Joy FM around midday, so I'd like to crave your indulgence. We should have been going out for coffee, but I'll crave your indulgence to take the next presentation, after which we would go have coffee, come back, and then deal with the panel conversation. Does that sound like a plan? Thank you very much. So I'd like to invite Musa Mohammed. I hear he's a he for she and a feminist. Because when I saw the program, I was like, where are the women on the program? But I was assured that Musa is more than 100 women combined. And since we're also in an era where we are encouraging more he for she's, so that we all appreciate that this gender thing is not a woman against men thing, but it's something of value to all of us. If all of us, men, women, able, disabled, are all contributing our optimum, it's a society that will be good for it. Not so? Not so? Great. So Mr. Musa Mohammed has over 20 years experience in working in various development portfolios in both the public and private spaces. He has a background in education, governance and social protection, and he has been a local government practitioner with working knowledge of Ghana's decentralization modalities, fiscal, administrative and political decentralization. He has good working knowledge of many multi-donor programs in northern Ghana and has also honed his competencies in program design, baseline studies, micro-macro simulation, social budgeting and projections of many social protection programs. Let us invite and welcome Mr. Mohammed Musa of GIZ to give us a presentation on women's political participation and voter turnout.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I do appreciate the words said by Shamima that more than 100 women. That is not necessarily so. However, I got the opportunity to be in school because of my mother. Growing up in the north, my father was cattle rich. And then he looked among his sons and thought that I was a bit versatile with the bushes and trees, so I had to take care of his cattle. So it took the intervention of my mother to report to many opinion leaders, directors of education and so on, to move me back from the field with the cattle to the classroom. And today I happen to be benefiting from that initiative. Yeah, Prof has actually created a big path. Fortunately, I'll be able to trail in the margins of that with what I'm coming to share. We are going to look at insights from a meta-synthesis we did, and then we will look at some critical issues in the area of gender and the local governance, and of course we will look at where we have done well as a country, some milestones, and then we conclude. Indeed, strengthening women's participation in governance is not only about upholding democratic ideals, but we have come to realize that it is quite necessary for our economic and social development. Largely, international organizations and donor organizations have actually championed these issues of women participation, and they have been able to integrate processes of such into our economic and social development endeavors. Many countries in the past had restricted voting. We know in many countries women were not allowed to vote, and even people of certain social backgrounds were excluded from voting. But largely countries have moved to accept democracy, and they have accepted the principle of universal adult suffrage. In most countries where democracy is practiced, people are not limited on the basis of their social status or some demographic feature. However, that has not necessarily led to balanced governance systems. And that is why we are here. It is because we still have that unfortunate wedge in terms of participation and representation between women and men. So if you look at the data around the world, underrepresentation of women is not only a matter that we talk about in continental Africa, but it is global in nature. Even in some supposed developed countries or developed economies, we still find traces of these differences. And Ghana is not an exception. We wouldn't be here to look at these issues if we were doing so well. Perhaps the narrative would have been different. But one thing that is striking is that the underrepresentation is disproportionate, because we are aware from the figures that women are in the majority in terms of the population. So how come that their participation or representation is low? So that is one area we have to take note of. I'm also going to share with you a meta-synthesis that we did on closing the gender gap in local governance. One of such studies was done by Ofe Abuaji, who is here, and at the end of the program, I will get to engage her further on it. We sought out to look at the state of women's political participation and representation at the subnational level. We also wanted to find out the factors that account for this gender gap in local governance. And then we looked at the dominant recommendations made by various agencies and some of these studies in terms of closing the gender gap. What has been recommended and what have we done so far as a nation in terms of addressing or accepting these recommendations and doing something about them. The study actually, as we have a lot of researchers here, so it was underpinned by the development theory of gender gap, which, okay, I'll just skip because I understand I have a lot of slides, and then I was already warned before I came that I have to be skipping some of them. So once the slides will be shared, and then this also largely talks about the gender theory of the development theory of gender gap. So the theory gives the proposition that pre-industrial societies were characterized by sharply divided traditional values. So in the pre-industrial society, we had women who were restricted only to the home, to bear children and to raise children, and then also do domestic work. Then we had the paid work being largely dominated by males or men. Then there were also restricted educational opportunities for women. Based on that, there was also high reproduction because women were at home and their duty was largely just to stay and then reproduce and then do other domestic work. Based on this, women were also largely limited in terms of their representation in politics or in the public space. Fast forward to post or modern industrial society. We now have a structural revolution with transformation in the roles or sex roles, in the roles that men and women play. We have come to have some convergence in terms of roles. Roles that men previously played are now being taken up by women. Participation rates in terms of labor for women has largely increased. We also now have educational opportunities for women. However, the load or the burden of having to deal with family life is still on women. And even as they are given the space to participate in the labor market, they also have to juggle between that and the domestic work. Of course, now we have that gap narrowing in terms of political and economic participation, but we are still not where we want to be. Of course, as we are in a modern society, we still have remnants of the pre-industrial societal values. And in some communities, as a woman, you dare not put up yourself to contest. the men will deal with you in various ways. So as I said, we did a meta-synthesis. And the meta-synthesis is largely a mashup of studies. It's just a study of studies. You put several studies together to see how they relate or how they converge or whether they have disputations or agreements around the phenomena you study. So we looked at papers from academic papers, from international development organizations, think tanks, and individuals. As I mentioned, one of the earliest papers to have been included is from Dr. Ofe Abuaji, who did a presentation somewhere in the year 2000. And her findings are still as valid today as they were some 23 years ago. So I'll skip that of the topics of meta-synthesis. Yeah, so our study search gave us these 17 studies. But we had to now develop a criteria to see which ones are more relevant to the phenomena or phenomenon of study. So we had Ofe Abuaji 2000, then we had one from Abantu for Development, we had Odami 2010, and then all the way to USAID 2020. But these studies were dropped because they did not satisfy or meet the criteria of inclusion. When we did the synthesis, we realized that the primary studies, the findings generated from the primary studies were categorized into these 4 items: women's representation and participation, women's economic empowerment, then we also have capacity, education of women, and the socio-cultural barriers. When we looked at the recommendations, the studies had made recommendations towards Ghana accepting or adopting an affirmative action policy. We also had recommendations supporting women's economic empowerment. Then we had capacity building initiatives for women, and then recommendations on advocacy, sensitization, issues of lobbying. Of course, one thing that also stood out was the fact that there has to be some collaboration and partnerships between the stakeholders to be able to reduce this gender gap. And I want to believe that today's event is one of such collaborations, bringing together stakeholders like a salad bowl for us to deal with these issues. So this model was developed from the findings. So you would see that under socio-cultural barriers, Ofe Abuaji made some observations around it. Abantu for Development equally did so, and USAID. So this just depicts the interrelationships between the studies. And what it tells us is that these issues are predominant issues of socio-cultural barriers to women's participation. We cannot deal with the gender gap without having to look at it. Then there is also the issue of low representation. We also have the issue of low women's economic empowerment. They are found not to be economically empowered enough to be able to compete with their male counterparts. Then we also have the issue of capacity and education in terms of their participation rates in education and so on. Then under the recommendations, this also depicts the relationship of recommendations made by the primary studies in terms of affirmative action, collaboration and partnerships, advocacy, sensitization and lobbying, then capacity building initiatives for women, and so on. So once the primary findings were extracted, we had what we call the third order constructs. and that is actually the synthesis. So in the third order construct, under women's representation and participation, we realize that the representation is still low. Then women are also, the participation is low, and the women are also underrepresented. Then there is also that lack of political will and commitment from policymakers and people in government. Then we also realized that there was that reluctance to run for political office by women themselves. So what you have here are the third order constructs, which I wouldn't want to go. The summarized versions are to the left hand side. Then under women's economic empowerment, we realize that women face financial constraints. There is also unequal work opportunities between men and women. And when they don't get to participate in paid work, then they are not only poor in terms of income, but they are also poor in terms of time. Then there was the issue of economic empowerment training. Women have to also be given some economic empowerment training. The data also showed that women are the poorest of the poor. And even if you look at the poverty statistics around the country, you will realize that women are at the worst end of the effect of poverty. Then capacity and education. The data indicated that some women lack public arena skills. So even when men are confident in them, or the society is confident in them, and they nominate them, they put them up for some positions, they walk back and say that no, they won't be able to do that. They will rather be pointing fingers to some other people to do that. Then we also realize that there are low levels of involvement in terms of wage work or paid work by women. Then low levels of education. The illiteracy is high, although as a country we have almost achieved parity in terms of basic school enrollment. But it is not like that at the higher levels. Then we also realize that women would need some political leadership training and networking. Sociocultural barriers to women's participation. Gender stereotypes and cultural barriers still exist. And I'm happy that we have some women assembly members with us. If they care to share with us what people tell them as women, that will confirm what we found. Then, of course, we have perceptions and misperceptions around women's participation. Then patriarchal practices, demands of domestic duties as I indicated, and I will soon share with you some data from the study of the International Labour Organization about how women disproportionately carry unpaid work in our homes. Then there was that issue of spousal support. Women who have defied their husbands to put themselves out for election have had to suffer divorce or being hauled before a malam or a pastor for some spirits to be exorcised out of them. So this still happens. It is still with us. Then of course the insults and bullying by opponents was also found to be present. Of course, these were some of the recommendations made. So these are attributable to Ofe Aboagye, her paper in 2000, the one she presented at Maastricht. And it was very rich with the issues we are dealing with. So I would not necessarily go through all that, the recommendations, but this had to do with Sorry. Her recommendations were on affirmative action, collaboration and partnerships, and then also on advocacy. So I wouldn't have to go through all the primary studies and all that they said, but I still have some interesting slides to share with you. Yeah, so let us look at the lingering issues, the issues which have endured with us. One is the fact that we still have very low participation of women and representation. And the appointment of MMDC is one area that I would call it a low-hanging fruit. Women don't have to go through the trouble of putting themselves out. Then we'll go through the trouble of organizing elections and then put them in positions. The appointment of MMDC is just a stroke of the pen by someone in authority. But we still don't do well in terms of it. So, in the opening remarks, they made references to the figures of elected women assembly members, and even those who are appointed as part of the 30%. What we have come to find is in the appointments is just what we will call tokenism. Governments are just trying to massage the issue and appoint a few people to indicate that we have appointed some people as women, but we are not really serious when it comes to closing the gender gap. I have looked at appointed data from of appointed assembly members in regions in the north, and I've seen that maybe if an assembly has 11 assembly members to be appointed as part of the 30%, then you just have 1 out of the 11 being women. And those are just easy appointments. Bring women on board, but we are not really taking that seriously. The graph here depicts appointments of MMDCs from 2007 to, I think, the first term of this government, 2017 to 2021. And you would see that this is unfortunate. It's highly disproportionate if you look at the population of women. So you have more than 84% being men, and then only 15%. So if you're looking at 219 against only 41 women. And the data I also got from NALAG indicated that even from 2013 to 2017, the figure was around only 10% for women. So this is quite unfortunate. No one is being put out for election here. It is just a policy decision, a decision of a president, someone in power to, thank you, I'm being prompted. These are also for the currently 7 DCEs. From 2021, their tenure will end in 2025. And unfortunately, the number has even gone down, I think by some 3 female appointees. It's still the same. We haven't made progress. So these are the regional disaggregated figures in terms of the number of women appointed as MMDCs. So the only region which I would say is a bit better is Greater Accra. They have a total of 21 and 8 are women. But you look at Volta, out of 17, you have only 1 woman. That is quite unfortunate. And the Western is Western North, 9, and no woman, 0. These are the figures, women MMDCs. Then another issue that has endured with us, which we need to give attention, is the fact that women, even those who are in politics, will also have to deal with domestic work. And globally, the International Labour Organization realized that women do 76% of total unpaid work at home. 76% global, that's the global figure. But if you come to sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana is also very high. We have 76.4%. Our women do 76.4% of the domestic work, unpaid work, cooking, taking care of children, taking care of our mothers, fetching water, washing clothes, and so on. At the home, they do that. And we don't consider that to be part of work, but it takes their time. And that is why I said it makes them not only monetary poor, but time poor. Then the issue of low voter turnout. Professor Deborah has touched on that. I wouldn't need to repeat that, but I will share with you the voter turnout data from 1988-89, which had the highest turnout. That was under a military regime. So professor and other researchers here, we may have to go through this to see why that happened. And since then, the turnout has been very low. And the last one, we had only 33, just 1/3 of voters turning out to vote. And given what has characterized this year's elections, very poor publicity from EC, NCCE, and other stakeholders, the turnout may be lower. And if you also observe sentiments of people in the political space, we may be registering something around 20 percent thereabout. These are turnout figures for general elections, presidential and parliamentary, since 1956. But we have not had, the data for parliamentary elections during this period. If you observe the trend, in 1992, parliamentary election was quite low, and that was because one political bloc boycotted the elections. So their supporters naturally did not, probably some of them did not turn out to vote. Observe the years which have led to transition. In the year 2000, we had a change from NDC to NPP. Then in 2004, it shot up. 2008, another transition, turnout low. Then 2012, it shot up. Still the same regime or the same political party. 2016, there was a change. It's low. Then 2020, it shot up. 2024, is that trend happening? We need to interrogate that further. Okay, so this is also from the World Value Survey Wave 6, but Wave 7 results are out. Unfortunately, Ghana was not included in the Wave 7. So this depicts voters, those who have always voted in national elections and local elections. So when they did the survey in Ghana, 72% indicated that they have always voted in national elections, but 58% have always voted in local level elections. So it tells you that some people will vote in national elections but will not do so in local level elections. So this usually means sometimes they vote, sometimes they don't. And you would see that sometimes they vote, sometimes they don't. For local level elections, more people indicated that they don't regularly vote. Then those who have never voted, you would see that for local level elections, the figure is higher than general elections. So there is more interest by voters to participate in general elections than the local level elections. So in terms of exploring the issues which have driven voter turnout, these factors are actually associated with